Hi guys, if you want to know how poor students and rich people can help each other, stay with me. Hi and welcome to the Uncon School at howtobecomeaprofessor.com, the web show to learn from unconventional academics, professors and experts. So my name is Stefan, and in today's episode you will learn how one social enterprise brings two groups of people together who seem that they have not a lot in common. However, poor students and financial potent investors. So the person who will tell us more about the social enterprise and its mission is the person on my right. His name is Christoph Holzheider, sorry, Christoph Holzheider. And Christoph studied International Business Administration, Chinese Studies and Japanese Studies in Austria, Japan and Taiwan. And he is currently, like me, living in Vienna in Austria. And after his graduation in early 2010, he spent 3 years working for the international management consulting company McKinsey & Company. And during this time, he was engaged in several projects in China and Japan. And currently, Christoph is setting up the Austrian branch of Studentorg, a social enterprise supporting people to finance their education. And his other passions include photography, triathlon and learning foreign languages. So first of all, Christoph, thank you very much for taking your time for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
And obviously you are a very interesting person, a capable person, right? And so the first question I'd like to ask you is, what is Studentorg all about?
Yes, so first of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's a great pleasure to tell you all about what I'm doing and what I'm passionate about. Studienaktie.org is all about enabling education and making sure that everybody who wants to educate themselves, who wants to study something, is able to do so, and has. So our main focus is that money should not be an issue. Right. So we say everybody who wants to study should be able to do that, no matter how rich or how poor that person is. And we want to make sure that everybody just does not have to worry about money when they want to study something, because we think education is just the most important thing, the most important investment. So money should not be the reason why people just quit university, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, financing models or scholarships or taking loan for educational purposes is per se nothing new, actually. So in what way is Studienaktie.org innovative?
Yeah. So what we do is we facilitate student loans between private individuals, private investors, like for example you could be an investor if you want to, and students who have a lack of funding, who need the money. Right. And we see an important trend that people who do have some money on the side, they want not only to put the money into a bank account, but they actually want to do something useful, something meaningful with their money. They want to increasingly not give it away as a donation, right? They don't want to just give it away and never see it again. They want to see it again, but they still, while the money is sort of working, they want to do something meaningful with it. Right. So more and more people are interested in these kind of things, and they say, hey, I think for me education personally was a big lever, it helped me a lot in sort of building up my career. So I want to give something back, and I want to invest a few €1,000 into the education of somebody else. So that's a big trend we see. The term impact investing is becoming more and more important. People want to invest their money, but they also want to see a certain social impact associated with that. And that can be an environmental impact, but that can also be sort of a real social impact, helping other people.
Right, got it. And the difference between, you called it impact investment and just charity, is that as an investor you also get something in return in terms of also financial resources.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Is this financial return guaranteed?
So I think let's take a step back, and I'll just explain the basic model, and then let's talk about it. So the way we work is we facilitate these student loans. So we, on the one hand, we find these investors, and on the other hand, we find students who study anything, no matter what, who have a certain need of money just to finish their studies. And these people, they knock on our door and they say, "Hello, I'm Christoph. I need 10,000 euros." And then we say, "Okay, that's fine, but wait a second. Let's sit down." And we do this like through a normal coaching process. Do you really want to finish these studies? Is exactly what you're doing this the right plan? Don't you have maybe other plans, or we just, from a content perspective, just check if that's sort of really what you want to do?
Right.
And then we say, okay, but how much money do you really need? And we come up, like, we have this Excel template, and we sit down together. How much money do you need for books, for food, for whatever over the next 2 years?
Right.
And then in a third step, we say, okay, now we have identified this gap. But let's look at scholarships, let's look what can the Austrian government, Stipendienstelle, whatever, provide. And then after that, in the final step, if we see, okay, there is really a gap of 8,000 euros and there is no other way to finance this, then we sort of come into play and we say, hey, we'll talk to these investors and we'll do the matching, and we'll make sure that you get this loan financed via our network.
Okay.
And it's interesting because in many cases, people, they do this financial calculation and they do this plan, and they have a really sort of a document and a concrete plan. And then with this document, they go back to their parents and say, hey, this is my plan. I'm really serious about it, but I need 7,000 more euros. What about it? And then they say, okay, well, in this case, because we now exactly know what your plan is, we can actually give you the money, and we'll give you half now and half in a few months, right?
Got it.
So many people tell us, actually, because they went through this coaching process, because they're so serious about that, actually in their environment, more sort of new sources of money pop up.
I got it.
Because before they approached us, they weren't really sure about what they want to do, what their plan is, how much money they really need. So out of 7 people who approach us, actually only 1 needs our financial service in the end, right?
Interesting.
So it's not only about really providing these loans, but it's about providing also the right sort of environment and the right content perspective, and just somebody to talk to and to explain what you're doing, and actually having a standardized approach how to think about your future and your financial means. So that's the whole system behind it.
Right. And is this kind of coaching? Is this for free, or do they?
Yes. So the way it works is we have volunteers who do the coaching, and it's for free. But if we arrive at the step where you need to, where we actually look for a loan and we do the financing, then you have to pay like a 50 euro membership fee to our sort of community. Yes.
Got it. Okay.
But you were asking actually about impact investing and the interest rate, right?
Right, interest rate, and yes, definitely. So what's in for the investors?
Yes. So
I mean, I dig the website and I saw that you actually also started as an investor.
Yes, I did actually.
All right, if you could share this story as well, please.
So when I met Lars Stein, the founder, last year in Austria, I was so intrigued and so fascinated by the whole process.
Okay.
And I still sort of had a good income, because I was not doing a startup like now, but having sort of a steady income.
Right.
So I said, I want to try that out, and I want to invest. So I applied online. I had a first interview, and then they gave me the list of people who are looking for money. And actually, I got in touch with a lady from Kyrgyzstan.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Cool. And cool. So I invested a few thousand euros into her studies.
Right.
She lives currently in Frankfurt, in Germany.
Okay.
Doing business administration.
Right.
And I think the plan is for her to pay back in 2016.
2016.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Got it.
But as with many other investors, the sort of financial return was not really the main motivation, because you get the opportunity to get to know very interesting people from all different parts of the world, different backgrounds and different attitudes.
Yeah.
And you end up having quite a close relationship with these people if you want to. So German is not her mother tongue, so she sent me, application material and said, I want to apply for this internship, can you look at my cover letter? And so we actually have a very, very nice relationship where I play a bit the role of a mentor,
right,
but also of a friend. So I'm planning to meet her later this year, and it's just a very nice way of getting to know interesting people.
Awesome, awesome.
And so the way the interest fee, the interest rate works in our case is we sit together and we do this financial calculation, and then we say we need to come up with a sort of a target salary of the first year after graduation.
Yeah.
So you'll graduate, I don't know, in the middle of 2014, and then you need a few months to find a job and to have a transition period, and then the next year is like your first year of where you get a full salary, and then we sit down and say, okay, what do you think should be your sort of target salary? And then people say, okay, it will be 35,000 euros for the first year.
Yeah.
And if you then at the end of this year approach the 30,000, then the interest rate is 5%.
Okay.
But if it's lower, then the interest rate goes down. If your salary, then the actual salary at that day or for this year is higher, you have to pay a bit more. But it's always between a certain corridor, so interest rate will never be more than whatever you define in the beginning, 7-8%. Of course, it's not going to be 100% or whatever.
Right, right.
So it's in a certain corridor. The default corridor is between 1 and 9%, but you can also sort of decrease the corridor to have a bit more flexibility. But the idea behind it is that it's flexible, so people who don't find a job that is paying so much, or maybe find a job later, then maybe they only have to pay, for example, 1%.
Okay.
But if they find a really cool job which pays much more than they had expected, then they're also in a position to pay a bit more, because what they receive net after the interest rate is still much more than they thought, right? And the interesting aspect is that because the interest rate is based on the future salary, it's also, of course, in the interest of the investor that this person gets a good salary, a good job.
Right.
So we find in more and more situations that investors actually also help with the job hunt and help actually content-wise, right? But still, I mean, usually that's not the main motivation. But of course, it's fun. It's a benefit, right?
Right. So from an economic standpoint, but also from a human standpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And how long does it take on average to pay back the loan, including the interest rates?
So we always, to make things easy, people receive. So let's take a step back again.
Okay.
Usually, people who study, they receive money from more than one investor.
Okay.
Because so the two advantages. The advantage for the student is they get access to more interesting people. They get more mentorship, because if only you give me money, then we only have like one-on-one relationship between you and me, right?
Yeah.
But if there are 5 other people who also give me money, then I can talk to these other people, and they have different backgrounds, and they can maybe support me in different ways, right?
All right. Yeah.
And the other benefit is that for you, the amount you invest into one project, one education, is reduced. So also the risk for you is less, right? Because in the worst case, maybe you get your money back a bit later, or maybe only half or whatever. But then you have invested a smaller amount into one student, and maybe you have several investment, but it's from a classical sort of investing strategy point of view, the risk is reduced because you're diversified.
Yeah,
right?
got it.
But what we always do is the loan is paid out once, the full amount, and is also paid back once in the full. So it's not installments, 100 euros per month or something, but at a certain date, students pay back everything. So they plan sort of, maybe a loan of 5,000 euros is paid back after the first year of working, and then the second loan is paid back after the second year, and that's it, for example.
So okay, so the students, they get the entire loan at once.
Yes.
Isn't it a little bit dangerous?
So what we do is we do this financial calculation, and then we see, okay, so next year in January you'll have your bank account will be 0, so you need more money, right?
Right.
And then you get 3,000 euros from one investor.
Yeah.
And because you have other loans and other scholarships, and your parents give you money, this will actually last for a whole year. And then the next year, at this point of time, you also have a lack of 3,000 euros, and then you get the next one.
Okay.
So we do encourage people to develop a certain responsibility also for their own finance, right?
Sure.
But yeah, it does take a certain responsibility not to then spend the 3,000 euros on, I don't know, a used car or holidays, whatever, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
But we see that because students, they develop this relationship with the investor,
Right.
they also feel that they're a little bit accountable, and they build up this trust-based relationship. So they would feel very, it wouldn't feel right to get the money and then go on holidays with it and then come back and say, sorry, can you give me more money because I just went to Ibiza or whatever. Right.
Right. Okay, cool. You know what? For what kind of students or what kind of educational goals is Studentorg the perfect fit, so to speak? I mean, do you have prototype students or prototype applicants?
That's actually a very good question because the answer is no, we don't.
Okay.
So what we find is, so if you look at Austria, for example, there's a range of different scholarships available where people get the money as a grant and they don't have to pay it back. But the problem is if you're from the wrong country, maybe not from the European Union, if you're too old, if you don't study the right subject, then in a few cases you fall through the net because all these sources of money, they have their own content criteria. Right. And very often it's a country, it's the age, it's these kind of criteria, right?
Right.
And we deliberately say we don't have these criteria because if we had them, we would just be another of these sources of funding. But we want to be this net who is actually supporting everybody who is falling through all the other programs. So we deliberately say we don't have any content criteria, so we have process criteria. People who come to us, they need to do this financial calculation, they need to really know what they want to do.
Yeah.
But we as an organization, we don't have these content criteria. What we do have is we have investors who have their own content criteria. But because we have a pool of more than 200 investors, so far we could have, I think just with one exception, we could finance everybody. So that's our philosophy, that we actually want to finance everybody, no matter where they come from, no matter what country they come from, where they were born, what age.
Right.
Because there is no other institution who doesn't have any sort of content-related criteria. So, of course, we do have, statistically speaking, most of our students, they study economy or business.
Okay.
But I couldn't even give you like and of course most of them are rather on the sort of young side, in their 20s. But we also have people who are 50.
Right.
We have people who study jewelry. We have people who want to become opera singers.
Right.
So it's very, very diverse.
Okay, got it. Awesome. In terms of matching the right investor with the right student, what worked? I mean, for instance, is it advisable if the investor who has a background in business is funding a student who is not studying a major which is business, something totally different? What is your take on that?
So we always ask both parties, the investor and the students, who is your favorite partner on the other side? And in many cases we find that investors they actually want to support people with a similar background.
Yeah.
Because they just feel they can contribute better, more. So in my case, I also said I want to support somebody with a sort of business education,
right?
Because I just have the feeling that content-wise, I can just contribute, in more ways than if it was art or I don't know, something technical, right?
Yeah, got it.
On the contrary, however, a few investors say, so actually I also would like to learn something new and just have access to different environments, and maybe art is something I haven't just been in touch so much. I don't know so many people who are in that business, so I'd like actually to find somebody who is doing something completely different, because it just also opens my horizon and my way of thinking. So it very much depends on the investor, but I would say more than 50% say I'd rather also contribute from a content point of view, and in this case it's better if the sort of the background is the same. Okay. But also, of course, currency is an issue.
Yeah.
So we originally started in Switzerland,
right? And
they have Swiss franc and not the euro.
Yeah.
So now we have increasingly the choice for investors between investing into students, into education in euros or in Swiss franc.
Right.
And and then also the time is important, because some loans go for maybe only 1 year or two, but some go for 5 or 6 years. So it very much also depends on how long you want to invest and what your time horizon is, and all these kinds of also characteristics from a real sort of financial investment point of view are also important, of course. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, this was one of my questions. The students, do they need to study physically in Switzerland
No.
or in Austria, or
No.
they can study
So-
anywhere in the world?
Yes, but what we do find is that most of the students who come to us and
Right.
who are looking for money, they're actually then physically based in Switzerland, Germany, Austria.
Okay.
But we do have cases because we all know that education abroad can be very expensive.
Yeah.
So we just now got a student who wants to do a master at the London School of Economics.
Yeah.
And that's actually can be very expensive. And he was also coming to us, and we're now finding investors for him. So that can also be the case. But I would say that's not, that's rather the exception, but can happen. But in any case, people do have some kind of relation with Austria, Germany,
Right.
Switzerland. So I don't think we ever had a case where, I don't know, somebody from Thailand wanted to study in the UK and somehow they heard about us, and then you know. So there's always some kind of local connection. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And the last question I'd like to ask you is, what is the vision for the future of Studentaktie.org?
Yeah. So the vision is to create a society and a system where really everybody who wants to study gets the chance, no matter what their background is, no matter if their parents have studied, no matter
Right.
how much money they have.
Right.
And in Switzerland, we are more and more working together with local governments, where we say we create this joint process where anybody who knocks on our door,
Right.
they go through this process, and they eventually we can guarantee that they will be financed and that they will enough money to study. And we actually don't really care whether money, if it's through our sort of Studienaktie loan
Right.
or through other grants, as long as in the end we can say, okay, you have the money, you can do your education.
Okay.
So that's sort of the vision. And in the Canton Luzern,
Okay.
we're very close because we have a really close cooperation with the local government there.
Okay.
And this is sort of our best case. Our showcase. We also can just go to other cantons and just have this as a reference that it is actually possible if more sort of parties work together to create this ecosphere of this possibility that we can really support everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Christoph, thank you so much, for explaining this awesome social entrepreneurs, social enterprise model. Besides Studentaktie.org, where can they find you in the internet to ask you direct questions? I mean, you're an interesting guy, and if they want to know more personally from you, from Studentaktie.org, how can they get in touch with you?
So I also have my own blog. It's called letsdoitblog.com.
Let's do it -blog.com.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can just fill out the form there. Or you find all my contact details on www.studienaktie.org
Right.
on that website. And my email address is christoph.holzheider@studienaktie.org. And I'm sure. And people can also find me on Facebook
Right.
or LinkedIn, just
is-
with a name. Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. And if you guys enjoyed that episode, then please visit us at howtobecomeaprofessor.com, and also make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much, and see you next week. Bye-bye.